Hey guys, good morning. Glad to be back. It's Sunday today. And what's the date today? I'm going to start putting the date. It's 1/22. Today is the Chinese cat and rabbit New Year. And apparently there has been a mass shooting. Now, before we get into that and the rest of today's show about the film The Zelle, or Cell, I want to just thank you guys for hanging in there while I was taking some time with my family. Most of you guys showed up to the daily shows, and I was in the chat in most of those shows, but I had some amazing time with my mother and my son. My son stayed behind in California to work, but I was able to see my family. But now we're back to the daily live shows. And 2 days after I left California, here we are on the Chinese rabbit and Vietnamese cat calendar on the new year. They're telling us that 10 people died in California at a New Year's celebration. Let me show you the headline first. This was down in LA. This is unbelievable. Happy Year of the Rabbit right there. Now, why is this important? Well, about 3 months ago, we started talking about the cat and the rabbit aspect to 2023. Put together this playlist so you guys could see the progression of the cat and the 2023 New Year and the rabbit. And we said that in 2023, that the cat and the rabbit would be a huge factor in 2023. And they did not disappoint, did they? With this mass shooting on the new year. Now, this video, if you want to narrow it down to one video and you want to research this, January 8th, we uploaded Year of the Cat Rabbit, and we talked about what was possibly to come in the new year. Now, interestingly, no matter how much I try to warn people about the things that are to come on the horizon, no matter how many times these things come to pass, there's always some people who want to kill the messenger, or who say we're keeping people in fear, scaring people, when these are meant to be warnings to stay away from these kinds of things. Had these people listened, there would be 10 less dead people, wouldn't there? I can't imagine anybody who follows this channel showed up to this New Year's celebration. They would have stayed far away from this event, knowing that the controllers would be breaking off some ritual events, wouldn't they? Look at this. One of 19 photos, 9/11 backwards. Let's read about what happened. This is unbelievable. Let me check in with you guys, make sure we're connected, and then we'll get into some of this, some of these images of what they say happened. Now, I keep saying what they say happened because we don't know if any of this is really real, do we? But if it's real or not doesn't matter. It's the programming. It's the effect that this will have, the ritual effect that it will have on the human psyche, right? And their ability to control the narrative and to push forward their agenda. No doubt they're going to use this to take away people's guns, aren't they? And that is what this is all about. That is what it's about. And that's why we talk about it. And that's why we don't get too hung up on, was it real or not? Because that's exactly what they want you to get hung up on. It's a form of the right-left paradigm. Because then they can say, oh, that's disinformation. We have to censor that because they're, upset at the they're harassing the families. They get you all hung up on that, trying to prove if it was real or not, and then they take you down. Whereas here we are just talking about the ritual aspects of it. Look at the rabbit here in between the two hills. The rabbit in the hill valley. Wow. Unbelievable. Let's flip through some of these pictures here. There's all the police. Now, I'm sure there will be many, many channels breaking all this down, This is a big one, you guys. 10 people compared to the normally what we get. And Monterey Park, California, which is late Saturday in a city east of LA. So don't get confused with Monterey, California. It's Monterey Park, California, which is down near LA. And here they show some of these images here. Who is this? Sheriff Department Captain Andrew Meyer talking to reporters. Looks like it was on Rosalind Street. And a lot of these others just look like kind of like photo ops. Nothing really to see in some of these images. Here's the press, the cops. Wow. So, are any of you close to this? I want to give you the opportunity to comment if you're in this area or know about this. If you can lend credibility for or against this event. I guess now's the time, and we can kind of talk about that before we get into the rest of today's show. Now, the rest of today's show is very, very important because it kind of ties in with this phenomenon of people acting really weird with no fear of death. And just before I left to go to California, I screened the film Zelle with John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson. And it was based on several requests from many of you guys. And boy, was it full of symbolism, as well as some pretty specific images that seemed to implicate Trump's 5G technology as the catalyst for some kind of mass hive mind control. The film depicts people circling in a circle, just like some of these animals are doing around the world that they can't explain why they're doing it. We're going to break all that down today. So were any of you close to this shooting? Did you see it? Did you hear about it? Did you hear things popping off? Now, here's my feeling about any time you get these mass events. My personal feeling, is that 9 times out of 10, it's our own government doing these or at the bottom of or mind controlling people to do these things to push an agenda. Okay, that's my personal belief. I can't prove that. But the incentive for the government to do something like this is huge. Why? Because it furthers an agenda. Now, we are under attack on so many levels. Our right to bear arms is under attack. Our right to energy independence, personal energy independence, is under attack. We're going to talk about that tomorrow, the war on natural gas. Now, I know it sounds silly, and we did get to laugh about that a bit, but in the end, it is as serious as a heart attack. Why? Because more and more of our individual independence is being taken away. They're narrowing our options for fuel, independent fuel. You guys, it starts with the gas stove, and then guess what? They won't be selling propane tanks anymore at the gas stations to run your buddy heater. Where do you think all of this is headed? Where do you think all this is headed? I know personally several of you who rely on a propane run buddy heater to stay warm in the winter. Well, pretty soon that won't be a right anymore. We have to take the stand now with information. Now, I'm kind of looking in the chat while I'm talking to you guys to see if any of you were around the situation that happened on the Chinese New Year, Chinese and Vietnamese New Year. But I don't see anybody in the chat who were around that situation. And I guess it really doesn't matter. I was just curious and wanted to give you guys the option of, talking about that. Now, let's get into Zelle. Actually, wait. Should we read this article about the scrooting? Do you guys care? Let me go back in the chat and see, because we could read this article or we can move on to Zelle. It's up to you guys. All right, let this catch up. Good morning, Mark, Isaac. I like being hungry. I've been doing a little bit of that lately. You know, it's funny because when Max was here, we bought a lot of groceries. I love that boy, and he can eat. He's only about 140 or 50 pounds. He's tiny, but he's kind of tall. And everyone says, move on. All right, let's move on. Because sometimes these things are traps, aren't they? They're honey traps. You start talking about it, and then you go down into a rabbit hole and never come out. And in the end, it doesn't matter. All that matters is their agenda to want to take away our pop sticks. Now, let me finish up the story with Max. I'm getting ADD here. Anyway, so that boy can eat. We would go to the grocery store and come home with about $350 worth of groceries for two of us. But, you know, I was like, I want to spoil my son. And so I pretty much said, get whatever you want. And we cooked and we did stuff. I'm like, how do you not put on weight, son? And then toward the end, before we went to California, we were dwindling down on the food because we don't want to leave a bunch of food to go bad. And he's like, Dad, I lost weight. I'm like, oh, brother. Anyway, long story short, you know, I can survive off almost nothing. As you guys know, when I was in France, I did that for like 2 years, just surviving off literally less than $100 a month in groceries. So that we're back to that. Now, one day I'm going to have to go to the grocery store and buy some groceries, I guess. But haven't been eating as much lately. It's probably a good thing, right? Lean and mean. So let's get into Zelle. Now, what you're going to see in this decode is Donald J. Trump's initials in reverse on a tree at the end of the film. And I'll show you that at the end of the decode. But first, let me give you the backdrop of Zelle. John Cusack is on the way to like a new job. And all of a sudden, he's in the airport and he witnesses everybody in the airport begin to act erratically. They seem to be taken over by some kind of mind control. Let's take a look. They all zombie out, as you just saw. And pretty soon he figures out that the cause is coming through people's cell phones. Now, he's able to escape, and he teams up with a small group of these other people who made it out as well. One of the survivors is Samuel Jackson, who is a train operator. And so as they begin to navigate through the streets, they see something really weird. These cell zombies circling around each other. Watch. Oh, shit. Now, this behavior continues. I'm going to play that back so you can see this, because you guys have all seen this before. Where have we seen circling phenomenon? Well, people and animals are circling in this weird phenomenon. And nobody can explain why. A flock of sheep in China has been filmed walking continuously in a circle for 12 days. This is Newsweek. Baffling people across the globe. Now, when did this phenomenon happen? This was back in, let's see. This was at the end of 2022 in November. The sheep were walking in a circle on a farm in Inner Mongolia, North China. Now, we know that China is the home of the first 5G technology, were they not? And remember, Trump signed a legislation to follow China, to be quote unquote competitive. Notice how they always use the right-left competitive paradigm to get us to agree to things. Hey, if we want to be competitive with China, we got to go 5G, 6G, and beyond, don't we? It says here that the sheep have been displaying this behavior since the eve of the 5th of November. A portal date. The date of Samhain. Moving for 12 days. Do you think this is a sign? If I ever saw one, this was a sign. Now, I kind of missed this story. We didn't report on it. A lot of other people, a lot of other channels did report on it. And I probably should have reported on it. I kind of dropped the ball on this one. But hindsight is 2020. And here you see the video of the sheep walking in a perfect circle, just like the people in the Zelle movie from years and years and years ago, walking in a perfect circle around the Zelle signal. Now, nobody really knows why this is happening. They have their theories. They say it's one sheep following another, following another and another and another, but nobody can really explain why this is happening. Don't you think it's weird that CERN was spawning off weird storms in a perfect circle above CERN in Switzerland years ago? Remember when we reported on that? Are the two connected? Are these two connected? These two phenomena? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not a scientist. But I see patterns as well as all of you do. Now here's the excuses that they give here. Some experts have put the behavior down to listeriosis, a bacterial disease, also known as circling disease. So now they're linking this to a disease, and this brings us back to the zombie apocalypse disease. And people acting like zombies, will they be circling as well? Remember in the movie I Am Legend? And they did the same thing. Will Smith chases the German Shepherd into the warehouse, and they're all hovered in a circle, chanting. Let's keep reading here. The bacteria can infect sheep through the soil, food, and feces, with circling just one symptom of the disease. Others include lack of appetite, depression, and lack of coordination. While listeriosis can cause circling in livestock, recovery is rare, and its effects are fast-moving. The disease usually causes death within 2 days, so it does not explain how the sheep have continued walking in circles for so long. Let's see if this plays here. Look at this. So now we have a connection. Now there's more circling scenes in this movie. Let's get back into it. It's unbelievable.
The pulse flows through them like they're this big organic, network.
Like a hive mind.
What the hell are you doing?
So they start talking about the hive mind and all this, okay, which is the hallmark of this whole thing. Network technology, the hive mind, hardwiring us into that somehow, some way, which I believe explains a lot of these violent outbreaks. All right. Now, what else is going on here? Well, they figure out that this cell signal is networking humanity into a hive mind, as you just heard. The three then find refuge in a school where thousands of zombies congregate on a stadium field at night. This professor here is poking one of them with his stick. And what you don't see in this scene is the rest of the zombies laid out in the center of the field, of the stadium field, inside of the track. And that's when we see the injection programming. The clue that this would be about being poked, that one component of all this would be about being poked. Now, the scene goes like this. The principal here pokes his sword cane into one of the zombies.
What the hell are you doing?
No, he's down. I could put my sword cane right through his throat and he wouldn't try to stop me.
There are the zombies. He says I could put my sword cane through his throat and he wouldn't even try to stop me. Now, what is a sword cane? Well, we've been talking about canes, haven't we, you guys? The cane of the umbrella. Right? The cane of the umbrella is code for the bloodline of Cain. The umbrella is a syringe, has the same parts as a syringe. So in essence, the sword cane is the delivery mechanism of the bloodline of Cain into humanity. If you can believe that. Let me check in with you guys. We're going to keep going with this. This is going to be a very, very important show. Because we're breaking all this down. I'm breaking it down slowly so you can understand what's really happening here. So, the zombies are in this field and they're in a state of hibernation, and they do this every single night in the film. Okay? And if you really think about what's happening here in this scene, this is a football stadium. What do they play with football? The pigskin, the unclean. So essentially what you're looking at here on a spiritual level are the 2,000 pigs that Jesus sent the demons into in the Bible, the unclean spirits. They are possessing these people through their cell phones in this scene on a spiritual level. So this is where things get really creepy, and this was a very troubling decode that I did, but you guys need to hear it because it is the shape of things to come. So the zombies are in this state of hibernation, and they're all singing a particular song in unison. Watch.
You'd be so sure of that.
From their phones?
Don't worry, they won't wake up.
In my dream, he was poking my neck with a knitting needle and calling me insane.
So they're discussing their dreams here, and another poking of the needle reference. What would that have to do with the movie about cell phones? Unless you have eyes to see and you understand that the poking of the needle is what's happening right now. Let's keep watching.
In a red hoodie?
Pushed me in front of a speeding train.
So this is the song that all the zombies were singing in the field that were coming through their cell phones as they lay in stasis. And it's by Russian. Not only was just by a Russian, but a particular Russian. Keel. Like kill? Edward Kill. And guess when Edward Kill died? At 77 years old. John Cusack was born in 66. That Apollo number again. So, they decide to torch the entire field. Okay? Filled with zombies. And how are they going to do that? Well, the principal, you ready for this? Launches a flaming tipped toxon bow and arrow. That's what starts the fire. The principal becomes Apollo, the tip of the spear, the tip of the arrow, the rider on the white horse carrying a toxon bow.
No one knows better than me that you can't stop progress.
Can't make this up, you guys.
But still,
We've been talking about this, haven't we? All of this. Let's keep watching.
you're never too old to fight it.
Shit.
So in a strange twist of fate, the gas truck explodes and the principal is impaled by the axle of the truck. The spear in the chest, which of course we've identified as code for spirit possession. It's the serpent in the chest. It's Superman, serpent in the chest. Because it turns the person into like a Superman, doesn't it?
Aren't I? No!
Neil Stevenson, you like him?
So, before all this happens, this is a flashback scene here. Before all this happens, as they're planning on what to do with the zombies, they bring up an individual by the name of Neil Stevenson. Listen and watch.
Neil Stevenson, you like him?
Neil Stevenson is a god.
He's pretty good.
This is Neil Stevenson, and he was born on Halloween. He was also consultant to Jeff Bezos. He was admired by Bill Gates, and he is credited with coining the terms metaverse, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and avatar. In other words, this man's writings and words predicted the future of the shape of things to come. The world we have now was all planned out by this individual who they call a god, born on Halloween, born on Samhain, the beginning of Samhain. Now, if you think that this revelation excludes Donald Trump, you are sadly mistaken. Because inside Trump's COVID relief bill was a funding measure for a study on blockchain, as well as the Internet of Things. And of course, he passed 5G, 6G, and beyond. So, let's move on here, because the group then finds they basically link up with another group, and the other the name raccoon, and it spells corona. It's the last animal pictured in a film that came out long before any of this ever happened. So John Cusack splits off from the group to find his son, John Jr. So there's two Johns, Trump's middle name. And he's armed with an ice cream truck full of explosives. And his idea is to find the hive leader, detonate the ice cream truck, and destroy the signal. That's his plan. And the entire horde of zombies is circling the antenna, as you can see here, all night long. There's John with the ice cream truck. Now, I couldn't figure out what the symbolism of the ice cream truck was. If you guys have any ideas and you can help out, I would love to hear what your ideas are on what the ice cream truck symbolism means. Uh-oh. You guys say that I went silent? Uh-oh. What was the last thing you heard? Brother. Did my audio cut out? Let's see. Okay. What part did it stop? Did it cut out at? Oh, brother. Right before the raccoon. Okay. For a few seconds, you guys said. Okay, good. All right. Just for a few seconds. So you probably didn't miss anything. Okay, so we were just talking about the raccoon corona, and that when you scramble that, it says raccoon. Out for 30 seconds. Let me go back and repeat that part. Just to make sure. So you guys basically saw you guys heard me talk about them going into the bar, and on the wall were the animals pictured, and the last animal pictured was the raccoon, scrambled to be Corona, and this was years before all of this happened. And then John Cusack splits off from the group to find his son John, and he's armed with an ice cream truck full of explosives. And he's going to find the hive leader, detonate the bomb, destroy the signal, and the entire horde of zombies that are circling the antenna. Hopefully you guys heard all that part. All right. So, what is the significance of the ice cream truck? Okay, so you missed the bar part. Okay, so that was pretty much it. So I repeated that part. All right. Did you hear the part me talking about Trump's COVID relief bill, funding for the blockchain study and the Internet of Things? Hopefully you heard that part. Okay, payload, ice cream truck. Oh, okay. Yeah. Because remember, it has to be kept at sub-zero temperatures. Now, this might be a little bit of a stretch, but if you look at an ice cream cone, it kind of looks like Trump's hair. He's got ice cream cone looking hair. Right? Like an orange sherbet swirl. You could call that a bit of a stretch, though. I won't get mad at you if you say that's a stretch, but that's what we missed. Okay, cool. Right on. Back on track. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. I think they just cut the sound when they want to. Is what they do. So, Biden eating ice cream. Yes, Joe. Oh, the ice cream truck is the It Clown. All right, that's possible. All this connection here. We all scream for ice cream. Okay. Symbolize eating ice cream cone like eating. I missed that part. Okay, so let's get to the end of this here. Hopefully no more interruptions. And the group moves on to basically, so we already talked about the bar. Okay, let's get down in here. All right, let's see here. So, John Cusack tells the group that he's with that they can find him because they get separated here as Cusack takes the ice cream truck with him. He says, you can find me by painting Donald J. Trump's initials in reverse on a tree every few miles on the left side of the road. Watch.
Take this. And I want you to spray paint T, J, and D for Tom, Jordan, and Denise on a tree, always on the left-hand side of the road, because that's where I'll be looking.
So, what does the left-hand side of the road imply? That implies that you're supposed to reverse the initials, right? So TJD is really DJT, Donald J. Trump.
Look, don't go.
And there it is right there. Now, I didn't put this in here. This is in the movie. Literally, Trump's initials backwards. You guys, he wasn't even elected yet in this movie. And now, given the fact that Trump passed 5G, 6G, and beyond, which are cell signals, this 2016 film, the year he got elected, is very uncanny, isn't it? Now, as I told you a little bit earlier, John's son in the movie is also named John, as you just heard, which is Trump's middle name. John and John is J and J.
I'm so glad.
Dad, there's another.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I'm so glad you're going to meet my friends, Johnny.
Now, in John Cusack's mind, he thinks that he's detonated the bomb and destroyed the hive and the signal, which reunites him with his son. That's why he's walking with his son down the railroad tracks. But none of that is true. None of that is real. It's all in his mind, because he's actually circling the antenna still with the rest of the horde. Now, for those of you that are of the faint of heart, what you're going to see next is going to be troubling for you if you do not have hope in Jesus Christ. Because the song that plays in the closing credits of the movie The Cell, or Cell, is Never Walk Alone. This was in 2016. 5 years later, during the real pandemic, this very song was used as an anthem of support for the medical staff in the UK who were fighting COVID-19. So I dug deeper with this song. This is where I almost fell out of my chair, because the song Never Walk Alone has a album cover of a carousel. Animals and people circling in a circle, which is essentially what the horde was doing when it was circling the antenna. This is the song that they used during the pandemic. It was like they were on a carousel. Now, hopefully you guys can see the mockery and gaslighting here. And you can see that nobody could make all this up. Never walking alone, you guys, is all of us in this together. And there's the carousel, all in this together. The COVID carousel. Once you get on, you don't get off. So, what is the cell really about? And how does that fit into the year of the rabbit that we had identified last week? Well, apparently there is a brand new contagious rabbit zombie disease outbreak in Texas as we speak. We're going to finish up the show with this story. This was 2023, the year of the rabbit. We just had the rabbit New Year shooting. And on January 11th, they announced a new highly contagious rabbit disease that we're going to read now. No pun intended. Rabbit hemorrhagic disease, RHD or READ. So as you can see, the year of the rabbit is manifesting. Let's read about this one so that you can steer clear of this. A contagious rabbit zombie disease. Now, rabbit is also doubles for the word rabid. San Antonio, the rabbit hemorrhagic disease virus 2 has been detected in 3 animals in Texas for the first time this winter. Texas Parks and Wildlife Department said 2 desert cottontail rabbits and 1 black-tailed jackrabbit in El Paso County tested positive for the disease. Rabbit hemorrhagic disease virus 2 is highly contagious for both domestic and wild rabbits. It causes sudden death. And in less severe cases, rabbits can show dullness, loss of appetite, watery or congested eyes, and bleeding from the nose and eyes. There are 2 strains of RHD. It's not known to affect humans, pets, or livestock, but pets should not eat the carcasses of infected animals. It's a highly contagious disease spread between rabbits through contact with infected rabbits or carcasses. So, we've seen the chickens come under attack. This is why we don't have any eggs. This is why eggs are $10 a carton. And now the rabbits are under attack. Unbelievable. So, if you're a person that likes to go out and hunt rabbits, I would take this season off. Now, let's get into some other stories, because it seems as though, as in the days of Noah, when we had very, very large animals, they're trying to return to their pre-flood size. Look at the size of this Australian toxic toad. They're calling this Toadzilla. This toad is 6 pounds. Look at this thing. It even looks like Godzilla. It looks like a turtle without a shell. Look at her face. She can't even believe it herself. You know, what befuddles me is these scientists, they could see the signs. They can see stuff happening in plain sight. And they just buy the official line. Look, the toad is even called a cane toad. Like the bloodline of Cain, the unclean frogs and spirits coming out of the mouth of the Antichrist. Here they have a pen next to it. Oh, it's a blue pen. Blue blood Cain. Wow. Nobody uses blue pens anymore. Everybody uses black pens, especially for official science documentation. So, welcome to the Matrix. What else is trying to return to pre-flood sizes? Wait till you see this one. A giant squid. Now, we know that giant squids exist, right? But no one's ever caught one like alive. Now, just to get an idea of the size of this thing, there's a diver behind them there. See if you can see it. Get a good side by side. See the diver's, bubbles going up. This squid is 2 to 3 times the size of this diver. This is the kind of squid that could take down a small vessel, right? Look at this. This is Fox News. I wouldn't get anywhere near this thing. This squid could literally latch on to this person and then dive thousands of feet, couldn't it? Instantaneously. Now, this squid doesn't look like it's in that great a shape, because normally these things are very aggressive, you know, and they're like on you, and you won't get out. Once you get inside of a creature like this, you won't escape. Let's read about this squid, see if there's any clues in here. Video surface of a giant squid swimming off the coast of Japan, marking a rare sighting of footage of these elusive creatures. 8-foot-long squid. Couple who operated a diving business in Toyooka City found out about the squid from a fishing equipment vendor who spotted it in the bay. So this was just sitting in the bay. Wow, I could see its tentacles moving. I thought it would be dangerous to be grabbed hard by them and take off somewhere. That's what we were saying. We didn't see the kinds of agile movements that many fish and marine creatures normally show. It was moving very slowly. It looks like it was almost dying or something. The squid seemed either unaware or disturbed by their presence. Wow. So, weird times, you guys. Now, I got a couple more things for you before we wrap up today's show. I have an iPet Goat 2 Hierophant update. And I want to present to you a possible solution to the mystery of the burning house on the chalkboard. Now remember, iPet Go 2 was an animated film 7 minutes long that published in 2012. And I'm going to check in with you guys and we'll finish up with this iPet Goat 2 update. All right, looks like you guys are there. We're good. Now, remember, Dunce Day fell on Election Day 2016, the year that Trump got elected. For that reason, we postulated that there weren't 2 presidents in iPet Go 2. There were actually 3. Bush, Obama, and Trump, who was elected on Dunce Day. And so for that reason, I think that this burning church behind the dunce cap, here you can see this angle. Here's another angle of the burning church behind the dunce cap. I believe that this burning church is the Trumpen Church. I'm making this up. Of Scotland, in which an entire church full of MacLeods, which is Trump's mother's maiden name, her clan, they were burned alive in this church. The only survivor was a single girl. Trumpen Church. Makes you wonder, right? Was this single girl who survived, this MacLeod girl, who survived this church burning in 1578, was this Trump's ancestor? Was it his mother's ancestor, Mary Ann MacLeod? Now, what was this church burning about? Well, there was a feud between 2 clans. The McDonalds, of course, had to be McDonald, right? And the MacLeods. And the MacLeods, who got burned in the church, actually got revenge. How? They chased and slaughtered the entire MacDonald clan. And they dragged their corpses through a turf dike. Now, the location of this church is very important. It encodes the 5G. 5-7 is 5G. 7 is G in the alphabet. And by some weird coincidence, the church in Google Earth sits at 258 degrees. So we have the numbers 57 and 58, both Trump numbers appearing in this story, this ancient story of a burning church. Now, here's the real question. the modern day connections to all this? That is the real question. What are the modern day connections to all this? And its premonition of the Trump presidency and iPad Go 2 that we see on the chalkboard. To me, this is as clear as day. This was a premonition of a presidency that had not happened. Elected on Dunce Day, and the church burning, the Trump-in church. Well, in typical Trump Gemini fashion, he has basically turned on the evangelicals. I don't know if you guys have heard the news, but now he's starting to shame the evangelicals for not supporting him. So he already spiritually has burned down the church, and he did so during his first presidency. Well, how did he do that? Let's go over some of those points now. Trump eased up on the ban on political activity by churches, opening the gate, opening the way for a flood of money to come in, and the churches being now used by the left and the right to endorse elections. Trump essentially opened up and added the money back into the temple that God and Jesus took out of the temple by overturning the tables. Now, this is another thing I told you guys was going to happen. I said, this is dangerous. Remember, I said this is back in 2017. Everybody was happy. Oh, he's doing away with the Johnson Act. No, he didn't do away with the Johnson Act. He eased the restrictions so that money could come back into the temple. And everyone was so happy because they're like, good, now we can vote for Trump. And I said, this is going to work both ways. The left is now going to flood the churches as well. And they're going to pour a bunch of money and get their endorsements. And what's going to happen next? Well, the church will be used. And it sure is. This is now a new article here. Well, this is October 2022. Churches are breaking the law and endorsing in elections, experts say. The IRS looks the other way. This is because Trump allowed it. Now, this works both ways. And how does it work both ways? Well, a lot of churches are now beginning to be funded by the left, not the right. Well, they're being funded by the right as well, but the left as well. And what do you think is going to happen by a left-wing funded church? You're going to have same-sex marriages. So, Trump did start a church fire, didn't he? Here you go. Here are the headlines. Here are some, even in the Catholic Church. Clergy should have the freedom to bless and marry same-sex. Bishop of Oxford says church should marry gay couples. Mormon Church voices support for same-sex marriage law. Why do you think all of this is happening? Because the left is pouring money into the church, influencing the church leaders. Saying, hey, all you got to do is do this. Look, Jesus said love everybody, right? So if you truly love someone, then you'll let them get married. This is what's happening. Now, what else is happening? Well, remember I told you about 5 years ago that all this was going to start happening? Well, it's happening now. Now, we had basically a period of time in which God-fearing people, normally very God-fearing people, church-going people, could stand their ground and be moral people. Am I right or wrong? And when Trump came in, because of the right-left paradigm, he basically coaxed these God-fearing people into their base emotions of greed, the money aspect to all this, returning evil for evil against the left, which is against what the Bible says. Of course, all that culminated in the Cropper Hole event. And so we saw a slippage of morals during the Trump presidency, did we? I've even heard people trying to justify Trump's gay marriage law celebration at Mar-a-Lago, saying that we're supposed to love them. Yes, we are, but we're not supposed to celebrate it. Now, why did this happen? How did the right, the Christian right, slip? How did we allow this to happen? Because they had to, or in order to defend Trump and his past that he never repented from. Do you see the gaslighting psyop now that happened? They did it because they hated the alternative worse, which of course was Biden. And ultimately, the most important spiritual church burning that we all witnessed was the Venom sticker inside the church walls. Burning it all down. And it's not over yet, you guys. Now, the day after Biden took office, I told you guys that Trump would be back. I remember having this discussion with you guys. Because it's not over for him. And we were laughed at, mocked. A lot of people unsubscribed. Right? But it appears again as though we're right. Now, I'm not telling you we were right to brag about any of this. I'm telling you we were right so people can wake up and understand what's going on. Because all the glory goes to God in these revelations. Right? Look at this. People thought that DeSantis was going to wipe the floor with Trump, didn't they? But that was all just a ploy, as I told you guys it was, to create some kind of underdog aspect to all this. Here you go. This is January 20th, 2 days ago. Trump is a heavy favorite in GOP 2024 primary poll. Wipes the floor with DeSantis. Former President Trump is the clear favorite to win the 2024 Republican presidential nod. This was against all odds, remember? Oh, it's over for him. He's going to be broke. He lost all his endorsements. Nobody wants to do business with them because this, all the investigations, all of this. And look, just as I said, he will be the nominee and he will win. He will win. They won't make it look like he'll win, but he will. Now, if I'm wrong about that, we can come back on here and talk about how I was wrong about it after all this goes down. We have several years to go, but this is what I knew was going to happen. Why? Because the programming says that he's not finished yet. There's still more to do. And he's been very effective at deceiving Christians in America. This is why we've stayed on him and we never faltered. Because I knew that this moment was going to come. Now, let me go back into the chat because tomorrow we will be back with the Beast. 237. We're going to talk about natural gas and the natural gas wars. It's actually happening right now. It's become one of the main debates in America. From sellout chefs now claiming that they love electric stoves, to gaslighting reverse logic, them saying we won't take your gas stove, we'll just make it so that you can't buy another one or sell your house with the one that you have in it. We're going to talk about real natural methane emissions that happen on our Earth every single day. Billions of dead carcasses across the planet. And we're going to compare that to the micro leaks that they say are driving global warming. Of course, we had the huge, they're calling this the most extensive methane release in the history of methane release with this gas line leak that happened in Russia. It dwarfs anything ever released in the atmosphere. And apparently, we did that. So if we really cared about methane releasing in the atmosphere, why would we blow that thing up? We're also going to talk about the politicization of this issue. They're trying to say this is a right-leaning issue and that the right people on the right are freaking out. People on the right are freaking out. It's not a political issue. We need to stop seeing things through the lens of the right-left paradigm. We need to jump out of it. Both sides are evil. They're both gaslighting us and using us. All right, let's go into the chat here. That was the presentation for today. And see what you guys are up to for a few minutes. What a crazy world we live in, right, you guys? What a crazy world. All right, let's see what you guys are up to in here. $17 for a bag of tacos. Jeez. Yes, what in the world is going on? Thanks, Emily. I'm sorry I missed the super chats. Thank you so much for those of you that submitted a super chat. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thanks, Betty. Women are going to the hospital for holding in farts. Wow. I mean, people literally think that the few micrograms of whatever methane that's coming out of your stove, they're thinking that you guys, when they do controlled and prescribed burns of millions of acres, you know how much methane is being released from that? Oh, but that's okay. It's okay to blow up a pipeline and let out more methane than all of us combined could release if we turned all our gas stoves on and left them on without lighting them in an entire lifetime. That's all okay. But they want to control you and me. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. Now, fortunately, enough people woke up to this whole gas war thing, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow, to where they had to back off of their initial statements that they were going to make gas stoves illegal. They've backed off from that. We'll talk about that tomorrow. All right. Trump selling We the People Bibles for $80. Yep. Gosh. Most religions don't sell Bibles. They give them to you for free, even though it costs them money to print them. Oh, brother. All right, you guys. What else do you guys want to talk about? Now, if you're new to the channel and you're just tuning in, we do go live every single morning. You're not going to get a notification for it. You just have to come to the channel, and at 7:30 Central Time, you'll see us live. And that's how you find the show. If you don't do that, you're going to miss the show. If you're waiting for a notification, you're going to miss the show. And despite us going live every day with this kind of information, our channel has begun to shrink. I don't know why, but it's probably the algorithms and because they're unsubscribing people and not notifying people. Every time, it's so weird. Like, we get a bunch of new people every week, don't we? But what happens is they've unsubscribed that same amount of people, so we're having to basically break even and play catch up. That's what's been happening on this channel. So, I'm not going to complain about it, but that's the truth of the matter. Now, I won't stop putting up this work, because this is the work that God has tasked me to do, to wake people up, to get them to wake up out of the paradigm in their sleep. And so, this is what I'll continue to do. Even if there's 30 people watching on our live show, I don't care if we get down to 30 people. we're still going to research this stuff and put up this information. So we've got 3 or 4 backup channels. I recommend that you subscribe to all of those. I don't upload any content to those channels, but subscribe to them anyway in case we need them, so that if this channel goes down, you'll know where to find us. So, all right, you guys. Okay, do you guys want to talk about anything? Let's talk about Jesus. Yeah, we did a little bit in the show today. And we always, I said, what did I say earlier? I said, if you have not already, give your life to Jesus, because there's no need for fear. He's the one who has complete control of all of this. If you're feeling afraid, then that means you haven't given your life to Jesus yet. And all of this information we share with you is necessary. It would have been necessary to the people who showed up to the Year of the Rabbit celebration, 10 of which died. Don't you wish they would have heard this channel? We're at the point now where this is literally life and death. This information. Because who else do you know was talking about the Year of the Rabbit and to look out and stay away? And so, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. So, this is what we need to be focused on. But all of this stuff needs to be discussed as well, so you know the enemy. So, what do? Well, when you get off of this show, you go and you get on your knees to Jesus and the Most High, and you say, thank you for steering me clear of what the enemy has planned. Thank you for the information that finally convinced me not to get stuck with things. Thank you for the information that showed the programming of the things that they've done and will do, so that I don't have any more faith in this world, so that I keep my eyes fixed on heaven. And guess what? Your worship goes far deeper, right? Because yes, you are in gratitude and love for the information that's been revealed to you that is not being revealed to you through the churches. So, do you see how both components of this are vitally important? Because guess what? We could come on here every day, you guys, and just read the Bible and worship Jesus and only talk about him like the mainstream church and never warn you about any of this stuff. And guess what? You'd walk right into the trap that the mainstream church just did under Trump, believing in a man and getting stuck with things. But God's called us to something greater, hasn't he? As troubling as some of this information is, guess what? It's telling you to watch out for what to watch out for and what to steer clear of. And so, yes, we will always talk about Jesus on this channel, but it's also up to you personally to get your fulfillment and your worship on your own time. This is just 40 minutes to an hour a day, you guys. You got the rest of the day to get into your Bible and say thank you to the Most High for warning you, for caring enough about you to tell you what's happening in the last days, for giving you the strength to not fall under the Trump deception, for instance, to stop voting for evil. Which, do you think that doesn't carry spiritual consequences when you vote for evil? Of course it does. Of course it does, doesn't it? So, don't let, there are channels out there really jealous of what God is revealing on this channel. And the first thing they're going to do is say, he doesn't talk about the gospel or Jesus enough. And therefore, and so what they're trying to do is put you back to sleep. That's what they want to do, so that you can fall under the Trump deception. Because the next thing out of their mouth is going to be, well, we should vote for the necessary evil. Trump's better than Biden. That's the next thing that's going to come out of their mouth. And so that's what I recommend, you guys. Now, I love each and every one of you. And there was something else I was going to tell you today before we got off of here. Pray incessantly. Pray without ceasing. Amen. All right. Oh, so I wanted to give you a couple of other things that I had decoded that we'll be having shows all throughout the week. What was the one I just got done decoding? Let's pull it up here. Gosh, there's so much, you guys. There's the new series called The Last of Us. And lo and behold, it's all about the central nervous system and a fungus that activates the central nervous system even in paralyzed people and turns them into zombies, flesh-eating zombies. So, we're going to break down that TV series. Also found a surprise image. You're not going to believe this. Let me find it. From the movie Contagion. Let's see if I can find it here. Oh, I might have closed that. Let's see here. I think I've got so many tabs open, it's not showing me the tab. Anyway, there is a picture of a Hydra on the behind a computer monitor in the movie Contagion that everybody missed. There is a picture of a Hydra in the Contagion movie that everybody missed. So, we're going to show you that and all the other shows that are already scheduled. Make sure you go there and set your reminder for all the shows because every single one is important. I love each and every one of you guys. I hope you guys have a great Easter Sunday. Take care and be safe.